Picture Marcelo Bielsa sitting still on his bench as the clock runs deep into stoppage time, watching a match that is slipping out of his control. On the other side, a small island nation is fighting for every ball, like it is the last moment of their lives, celebrating clearances as if they have scored a winning goal. This is not a football powerhouse. It is a team from a group of tiny islands in the Atlantic Ocean, a country so small that many viewers would struggle to point it out on a map. With a population of just over 500,000, smaller than many single cities, they are standing toe-to-toe with nations that have lifted the World Cup more than once. In a tournament full of giants, the underdogs are not just surviving, they are shaking the entire competition. And that is creating a problem for football's governing body, FIFA, because the story is not going the way it was planned. The World Cup was expanded from 32 to 48 teams, increasing the number of matches from 64 to 104. It was sold as a way to make football more global and give smaller nations a chance to participate, but the real reason was financial. More teams mean more games, more television deals, more tickets, and more sponsorship money. Behind the scenes, the expectation was simple. Smaller nations would appear, enjoy the experience, and then exit early so that the traditional football powers could dominate the later stages where the biggest audiences and profits are made. Teams like Spain, Brazil, and Argentina were supposed to carry the tournament deep into the knockout rounds, while newcomers were expected to provide only short-lived stories. But football rarely follows a script. From the very first matches, that plan began to fall apart. Cape Verde, a team playing its first ever World Cup games, stepped onto the field against Spain, a squad full of world-class talent from clubs like Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Manchester City. Despite being massive underdogs, Cape Verde defended with discipline, energy, and belief. Their experienced goalkeeper made key saves, and against all predictions, they held Spain to a draw. Many assumed it was a lucky result or an off day for Spain, but that idea quickly disappeared in their next match. Against Uruguay, a country with 2 World Cup titles and a long football history, Cape Verde did not just defend. They attacked with confidence. Early in the match, they scored a stunning free kick that shocked the stadium and gave them a historic lead. Even after Uruguay responded with goals of their own, Cape Verde refused to break. They fought back again, taking advantage of a defensive mistake to equalize and keep the game alive. By the final minutes, they were still pushing forward instead of retreating, showing no fear of reputation or history. The match ended with the island team standing firm against one of the sport's most respected sides, and even seasoned coaches admitted they had been outplayed in key moments. What makes this story even more powerful is where Cape Verde comes from. The country is a small archipelago off the coast of West Africa, with a large diaspora spread across Europe and beyond. Many of their players were born or raised outside the country but chose to represent their roots. Their squad is built from different leagues and cultures, creating a team with no traditional football giants, yet full of unity and determination. They did not qualify easily either, facing setbacks along the way, including heavy defeats, but recovering with strong performances when it mattered most. Now, after only a couple of matches, they stand within reach of the knockout stage, needing just one more positive result to continue a journey that once seemed impossible. What started as a simple participation story has turned into something much bigger, a challenge to expectations and a reminder that in football, history and budget do not always decide the outcome. The fact that the invitation was even acknowledged became the main talking point across social media and sports discussions. From one side, many people continue to stand up for Claressa Shields. They argue that the gym video showed nothing more than confidence, strength, and a champion staying mentally sharp. They also believe Face Shot Leah crossed a line by showing disrespect towards someone with Shields' level of experience and success. Supporters quickly point to Claressa's Olympic medals, world titles, and long list of achievements inside the ring. Very few fighters in boxing history have reached her level, and that is something no one can take away from her. Those accomplishments deserve respect, and for many fans, they are enough to settle any debate about her status in the sport. Still, even with all of that in mind, a bigger question keeps coming up. At what point does constantly reacting to online challenges stop looking like confidence and start looking like a pattern that is hard to control? This situation did not begin recently. Over time, Claressa has been involved in public disagreements with several well-known names. She has exchanged words with Remy Ma, had tense moments with Amanda Serrano, and even responded to critics, podcast hosts, and online personalities who normally would not get attention from a champion of her level. Each situation tends to follow a similar cycle. First comes frustration, then a strong response, often followed by a gym video or training clip, then changes in captions or profile statements, and finally a stronger slogan or message meant to reinforce her mindset. Over and over again, the same pattern appears, and it leaves people wondering who these messages are really meant for and what they are trying to prove. Face Shot Leah, on the other hand, seemed to understand the situation from the start. While her approach was not respectful, she was not unprepared either. She appeared aware of past moments that critics often bring up, including footage of Abigail Montez and the knockdown against Hannah Gabriels. Instead of ignoring those moments, she used them directly in her comments. That choice made her response feel less like random criticism and more like a calculated move. It seemed as though she was studying the public image around Claressa and using the most sensitive points to get a reaction. And based on how things unfolded, that strategy clearly gained attention. However, none of this automatically means a real fight between them will ever happen. In professional combat sports, athletes cannot simply agree to unsanctioned fights without serious consequences. Licensing rules, insurance issues, promotional contracts, and sponsor concerns all make such situations extremely complicated. Even when emotions run high online, the real-world structure of boxing usually prevents things from going beyond words. Still, perception often moves faster than reality. The image of a world champion publicly asking where and when to meet someone, especially someone linked to legal controversy, spreads quickly and creates its own story online, whether or not it is realistic. This is where Remy Ma enters the conversation again. With just a few comments, she managed to place herself directly into the center of attention without saying much at all. She stepped in briefly, made a small impact, and then stepped back, allowing the internet to do the rest. From that point on, her name became part of every discussion. Every reaction video, every breakdown, and every comment section started referencing her again, even when the topic shifted back to boxing. If there was already tension around her name before, this situation only increased it. A common criticism continues to follow Claressa Shields through every public disagreement. The idea that she should be more careful about who she responds to. Over time, the people involved in these online exchanges have become more controversial, not less. At first, it was a major figure in music with a large fan base. Now it is a viral personality with a strong online following despite controversy. In both cases, Claressa chose to engage rather than ignore. Some see this as her defending herself and standing her ground. Others believe it puts her in unnecessary situations that distract from her career and achievements. There is also a growing belief that champions should not allow social media arguments to shape their public image or influence their decisions. After every response, whether it is a gym video, a caption change, or a strong statement, the conversation grows again. Claressa once described herself in a very intense way, using language that stood out strongly online. Whether people saw that as confidence, branding, or a mistake, the phrase became attached to her image. Now, every new controversy brings it back into discussion. Supporters use it as proof of her fearless attitude, while critics use it to question her emotional control in public situations. At the same time, the role of social media algorithms cannot be ignored. Platforms are constantly pushing content that gets attention, and that includes old clips, past controversies, and comparison videos. Moments involving Hannah Gabriels, Abigail Montez, Remy Ma, and now Face Shot Leah are all being grouped together by recommendation systems. As a result, every search connected to Claressa leads back to more drama, and every clip from others gets linked back to her name. Whether intentional or not, the internet has connected these individuals into one ongoing storyline. From an outside view, Face Shot Leah benefits from almost any outcome. If nothing happens, she still gets credit for challenging a champion. If a fight ever takes place and she loses, she gains exposure from sharing the stage with a major boxing figure. If she wins, her fame would rise instantly. There is very little risk for her compared to the attention she is gaining. Claressa, however, does not have that same advantage. Every reaction she makes carries more weight because of her status in the sport. When Claressa posted her gym video and referred to herself in a powerful way, it was likely meant as a warning and a statement of confidence. However, because of timing and context, many people interpreted it differently. Some saw it as a champion reacting too emotionally to online noise instead of focusing on her professional path. Whether that interpretation is fair or not, it shows how quickly public perception can shift based on tone and timing. In the end, this situation is less about a possible fight and more about image control in the digital age. Claressa Shields remains one of the most successful female boxers in history, and no online debate can change that. But modern sports culture often focuses more on personality, reactions, and viral moments than achievements alone. That shift means every post, every comment, and every response becomes part of a larger story that never really stops moving. Right now, Face Shot Leah is likely to continue posting because the attention is working in her favor. Claressa will probably keep responding in some way because that has been her pattern. Remy Ma will remain in the background, where her influence still shapes the conversation without direct involvement. Meanwhile, the internet will keep connecting all three names into the same cycle of content until someone with authority steps in to slow things down. What started as a simple online exchange has now turned into a much bigger discussion about reputation, attention, and control. And in today's digital world, once a narrative takes hold, it rarely stays in one place for long.